Welcome. Let's look at how to make some basic movement in Scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the events section here and grab a when green flag is clicked, because we want the movement to be able to happen from the start of the program. After that, I'm going to get in the control here, I'm going to get a forever block, and the forever block will run once every frame, and there are 30 frames per second, so it will check for our input on the keyboard 30 times a second. And the next thing I'm going to do is every time it runs through this check, I want it to check if I have certain keys pressed. So if I grab an if block here and I go into sensing, I can choose a key pressed. Now let's say I'm using the arrows here. I can say if the right arrow key is pressed, then I want it to do something, and then I can duplicate that and I can say if the left arrow key is pressed, I want it to do something else as well. And remember, it'll check these and act on these 30 times a second. So what do I want to do if the arrow key is pressed? Well, if I go into backdrops here, there's a particular, now you don't need to do this, but I just want to show you. There's a grid backdrop that actually shows you here the positions on the screen in Scratch. So the X position on the screen is how far left or right your character is, and the Y position is how far up or down it is. And as you can see, in the middle is 0 for both of them, and on the edge is 240 or negative 240 and 180 and negative 180. So in that case, to make him move right, I would like to change X by a certain amount of pixels. So let's go back into the code here, and I am going to, actually, I will just change that backdrop back so that we can see the alien properly. And I'll make sure I'll put it in the alien sprite here. So I want to go into motion and grab the change X, if I can find it, by how much? So this is how many pixels you're going to move every frame. I find maybe around about 5 or something like that works well. And if I duplicate that and put it in here, when the left arrow key is pressed, I want to change the X value by -5. And now if I hit the green flag, and I press right and press left, I get this really nice smooth movement. If I hold both of them, then the character doesn't move, which is what I want. And the reason the character doesn't move is because it does both of these things. It moves right and it moves left, but the screen is only redrawn at the end of this forever loop. That's important to remember. So you can do anything you do in here won't be seen necessarily, it'll only be seen at the end of the loop. And this runs over and over and over again. How do I make the character move up and down? Well, if I duplicate this, I can just drag those off to get rid of them. I can put in up and down as well. And in the up and down here, I can change Y this time. So up would be changing Y by 5, and I can change Y by -5. And now, hopefully, moving the arrow keys, I have this lovely smooth movement around on the screen. Now, a final thing that I will show you how to do is to have one number that you can change for the speed up the top and have it update all of these values. So if I wanted to change this to 7, I don't have to change it 4 times. And how I can do that is I can go into variables here and make a new variable, and I'm going to call it speed. And I can drag in here to set speed to 5. And then I can just drag speed into these blocks here. And you might say, well, what about the -5? And the way that you do that in mathematics, if you want something to be a negative, you just multiply it by -1. And I will right click and duplicate there and duplicate this. And now if I click the left arrow, it'll change X by whatever the speed is times -1. So it'll be -5, etc. And now I can just change my one number up here to 7, for example. And now I'm going to move a little bit faster around the screen. And this is really useful. Then you can, let's say if you get a pickup or something, it might increase your speed. It's very easy to change all of this code at once then. I hope that helps. There are some other things you can do, but we'll look at more complex things in future videos.